Am I doing this wrap up in my pajamas? Why, yes, but you know what? I'm here for the vibes and the vibes only. Hey guys, what's up? It's Belle. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello. And if you've come back, thank you so much. Today, you guys, I cannot believe it is this time of the month already. I feel like I was literally just sitting down to do my October reading wrap up, which is insane. But today, you guys, we are sitting down to do the November reading wrap up, which is just so insane. Also, we do have Mr. Mike today because it's so hot and I wanted to have the fan on and I didn't really want like the background noise. We had a very interesting reading month in November. I've got a few statistics to show you guys as I always do, so I'm not going to yap on for too long because we did read quite a few books this month. So without further ado, you guys, grab a drink, let's get comfy, let's get cozy, and let's get right on into the video. Alrighty, you guys, so as I was saying, if you've been around for a while, you'll know that I do like to start my monthly reading wrap-ups with a few statistics. I just think it's kind of fun to see how I went for the month. So I'm just going to get this up on my computer. So this month I read a total of 11 books. I read 3,825 pages. My average rating was 3.75 and I read the majority of my books on paperback. It was a very interesting split though because I actually read, I think I read 6 books physical and I read 5 books on my Kindle. So I read a lot more on my Kindle this month than I usually do. Then in terms of the genres that I read this month, I read 8 romance books. I read 1 dark romance. I read 1 romantasy and 1 historical romance as well. So this was definitely a romance heavy month. I think over the last few months too, just with it being like spooky season and cozy, I was reading a little bit more romantasy. So this month was just like tried and true, getting back into the romance. And we're feeling the pink today. We're feeling the pink as you can see. And then finally for my ratings, this is where it's kind of like insane. And I was like, I don't know. It's such a strange month. So I had 2 5-star reads. I had 1 4.25 star read. I had 1 4.5, 1 4-star, 2 3.75 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 1 3-star, 1 2.5 star, and then 1 2-star. This was probably the most varied reading month that I've ever had. I usually do sort of have months where it will be like a majority of a certain number. This month I just read like so, I don't know, like you can see, yeah, I just read so many different types of books and quality of books. Okay, so where's my reading journal? As you guys know as well, I do keep a reading journal. So when I'm talking about each of the books, I will be showing you like my spreads for each of the books in a B-roll because I know you guys do like to see them just for fun and also for like a bit of inspiration for your own. So I am going to go through the journal now and we are going to see where we started. Okay, so the first book that I finished in November was actually one that I started in the last day of October. And if you guys saw my wrap up, you would have seen me talking about this, but I did finally finish Training the Heart. This is by Paisley Hope. So this is book 2 in the Silver Pine series. If you guys saw my October reading wrap up, you'll know that I read Holding the Reins and it has quickly become one of my new all-time favorite books. It's such a great small town romance series where the MMC is not necessarily a cowboy, but he's like sort of like a hybrid. I'm just going to move these because I think I need the space. So as I was saying, this is a small town romance series. We do mainly have cowboys. This is book number 2. So this follows Wade and Ivy. So Wade is the brother of Cece, who was the FMC of the first book. And he's our oldest brother in this little family on this ranch. On the ranch, obviously we've got horses, they train horses, and his main horse trainer is going on maternity leave. So he is needing to hire somebody to help out and obviously be around to train the horses because obviously his current trainer is not going to be working with them for much longer. So he ends up finding this girl who applies. Her name is Ivy and she's a very, very, very highly renowned horse trainer. However, she is like the sunniest sunshine ever to his grumpy grump personality. And when she sort of first rocks up on the ranch, he is like, I don't know if I can deal with her and her loud music and she literally like plays audiobooks, like spicy audiobooks through her car speakers, like out loud. She'll have the doors open and he's like, can't deal with that, can't deal with all the scrunchies she leaves lying around, but she is the best at what she does. And then he ends up hiring her, of course, and it's like a live-in position on the ranch because, you know, she's got to look after the horses. So she does end up moving on to the ranch and accepting the job, and the book sort of goes from there. This one was so sweet. I have to say, you guys, as well, if you guys are fans of the Chestnut Spring series and you love that, if you love the Rebel Blue Ranch series, this is going to be the next big thing. And when I tell you guys, the spice in both of these books so far have been out of this world. The first book I gave 4 chili spices, and I've done the exact same for this one. There is a scene, a very last little bonus scene, I have to just quickly say, there is a bonus scene at the very end of this book that is literally insane, and I'm so glad that Paisley included it because it is like crazy, crazy, crazy. I ended up giving Training the Heart 4 stars, and of course I gave it a 4 chili spice. Just super solid, and I'm so excited for book number 3. It is called Riding the High, and of course it always just happens to be book number 3 in these cowboy series that I'm the most excited for, so keen to see that comes out next year. So yeah, that was a super solid beginning to the month. Next up, I read one of the books that was on my 10 before the end. I've had this book sitting around for a while, and I was so excited for it. I'd never read a book like this before, I guess this type of like genre within the genre. I ended up picking up Cross the Line by Simone Sultani. This is an F1 romance, so Formula One sports romance. This is my very first Formula One sports romance. I do read sports romance a lot, but I was just super excited to get into this. The cover is really sweet. Yeah, I've just had my eye on it for a while. It's also been sitting on my shelf for a while. So this book follows Willow and Dev. So Dev is obviously a very famous F1 driver, and Willow is his best friend's little sister. She's currently looking for a job, and one night the two of them sort of catch up, and he's explaining how he's just really bad at the moment. His PR is terrible. He's had a really interesting incident happen, and he needs someone to clear up his reputation and handle his social media. So he says, will you do it, Willow? Like, will you come and work for me, and will you handle my social media and travel with me? And of course, this sounds like a great idea, except that Willow and Dev actually shared a little kiss about a year ago, and neither of them have sort of spoken to each other since and talked about it since. So yeah, she ends up taking the job, and the book goes from there. This book started out really strong. I thought it was a great little concept. It was funny. The one thing I'm definitely going to commend this author on is the fact that, like, if you guys saw my TBR video for November, I was picking prompts. The prompt that I had that made me choose this book was like a book with a great opening line, and this one had me sold from the moment I opened it. It was like, I've effed up, like, boy howdy have I effed up. And then that was like the prologue, and then the first chapter was like, I almost set my apartment on fire again. Like, it was just such a great way to entice the author and draw them in. Hello, to entice the reader and draw them in. So I was super excited to read this, except it all sort of went downhill after the first couple of chapters. So I had a few issues with this book. The first issue that I had was it had such an interesting plot, and there could have been so much that could have been done with it. However, it was so repetitive. Like, every single chapter we were at every single chapter we were pretty much at a race. It was just like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I then think my biggest issue that I had with it is the girl, the female main character. I have an issue with the grumpy sunshine dynamic, where the girl is like so over the top, rubbed in your face, shoved down your throat every 5 minutes, that she is so overly sunshine, that she wears pink, that she carries on like a child. Like, I can't stand it. I love Grumpy Sunshine, and some of my favorite books are Grumpy Sunshine, but that's my only thing. When it's like, when I feel like this adult woman is a child, it's not for me. So then, like, when these two got together, I felt like it was a man and then this like little girl. Do you know what I mean? I just couldn't really root for them, which is really sad. And I did really love Dev. I actually think he was a really funny character. But then, yeah, towards the end, because I just couldn't gel with them as a couple, I got the ick. And then, like, the very last scene, I was like, this is so gross. I cannot do this. I ended up giving Cross the Line 2 stars and a 1.5 chili spice. I am really sad because it just, I don't know, I had such high hopes for it. I do think I want to check out the next one in the series, because I think it is a waking up in Vegas married, and it is my favorite trope. So one of my favorite tropes. So I might check out the next one, but yeah, I'm really sad about this one. This is so exciting. I'm so excited about the next one. Okay, guys. Then the next book that I read was one of my most like highly anticipated releases for November. It's one of my highly like anticipated releases of the year, really. And I love this series so much. I love this author so much. And yeah, I was just very excited to get it in my hands. So the next book that I read was Hexed by Emily McIntyre, which is the 5th and final book in the Never After series. I do get a few questions about this series. This is actually a standalone series, so you can read whichever one you want. Basically, each book is like a reimagining of one of our favorite childhood stories or Disney movies, where the villain gets the girl or the villain gets the guy, and they're so good. Like I've said a few times, there's a Peter Pan one, Lion King, Wizard of Oz, Aladdin, Hunchback, and this one is a Little Mermaid retelling, which I was so excited for, because other than Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid is my absolute favorite Disney movie, so I was so excited for this. This book follows Vanessa and Enzo. So Vanessa is sort of like our Ursula character, character, and of course Enzo is our Prince Eric type of character. So the premise of this one here, as I said, is you have Vanessa. She has actually been taken in by her uncle after her parents died, and she has a cousin called Aria, who is sort of like an Ariel. This is also like set in Mafia, so this is a dark romance, so of course check your trigger warnings before you start it. Anyway, one day her cousin Aria comes home to like see her daddy, and she has got a man with her, and this is Enzo, and basically they're in this sort of like arranged marriage, arranged engagement, because both of them are like in very high up mafia families basically. So Enzo and Aria are engaged, however it's not like a love match or a love engagement. So Aria, you know, comes back, brings Enzo with her, and of course when Enzo and Vanessa meet each other, there is like this instant connection, and it becomes this like forbidden romance, and it is so gorgeous, guys. I just have to say, this one was, like I said, one that I was so excited for, and it was such an incredible conclusion to this series. I just loved it from beginning to end. This one was definitely the most romantic out of the entire series so far. Enzo, I think, guys, come on, like he's based on Eric from The Little Mermaid, so of course he's going to be just like, you know, swoon worthy. But also the banter, I really connected with Vanessa as a character. Like I feel like we are one in the same. Her sense of humor, like I just really got her, and I really loved her. There was just some things he was saying, this is not a spoiler, but like Enzo was saying these things like, I see you even when you look away. Like I absolutely devoured it. I ended up giving Hexed a 4.25 stars and a 2.5 chili spice. Before I finish yapping about this one, I do just want to quickly have a side note about the author of this series. If you guys have not heard of Emily McIntyre before, she is such an incredible author, but if you do know Emily McIntyre, you'll know over the last year or so she has been dealing with stage 4 breast cancer, and amongst all of that chaos, and I cannot imagine how incredibly hard, you know, challenging, difficult it would be to be dealing with all these things, this incredible woman wrote this book and put it out for all of us to have. So I've said this a few times, I do just genuinely think she is Superwoman, and I'm just in awe and so grateful that, you know, myself and all of us can continue to hold more of her works. So that was Hexed. Alrighty, next up, guys, every single time I go to grab this book, I start singing, and you'll know why as soon as I hold it up. The next book that I read in November was Taste by Melanie Harlow. Now, you guys know what song I started singing every time. I was doing my book journal yesterday, and like as I was journaling this page, I was like, you know, having a sing. This is by Melanie Harlow. So this is part of the Cloverleaf Farm series, I want to say. Now, I do believe this is a second generation. You can read these out of order. They are interconnected standalones. However, when I was reading the first one, which is Ignite, and this one, I can sort of tell that this is like second generation, even though you don't have to read them like that. Anyways, guys, this book follows Gianni, and I have forgotten her name. This book follows Gianni and Ellie. This is a small town, childhood rivals to lovers, and an accidental pregnancy. I want it known that it's literally written on the back that this is an accidental pregnancy, so that is not a spoiler. So Gianni is a chef at this lovely little like winery that this series is sort of like set in. Ellie is also trying to like get a bit of a break in the food industry as well, and she has, when the book opens, has set up a meeting to do like a little dinner party, to do a wine tasting for the hotel, and she's basically like going on this little like road trip to go out and impress this lady who runs a magazine, who hopefully will put her in like the top 10 to watch out for, or something like that is what I remember. And on the night that this is happening, there's supposed to be like a huge blizzard, and she's chatting with Gianni, and he goes, there's no way you're driving yourself out there in this weather, like you have to cancel. And she's like, no, like I've worked really hard to get this set up and I have to go. And he goes, okay, well look, so that it's safe, I'll go with you. They end up going to this dinner party, and because he's a very famous chef, unfortunately all the attention goes to him, and it sort of is a bit of a flop. On the way home, there is a huge blizzard, and they're forced to stop at a motel for the night and sort of stay there until the blizzard sort of, you know, passes. And of course, one thing leads to another, and the story goes from there. I have to say, you guys, I actually did this in a reading vlog where I read like 200 pages in a day for a week or something. And if you guys saw that video, I was laughing so hard. This book was just so funny. Like, you know, sometimes you read a funny romance, but this was genuinely like I was laughing out loud. I just thought it was so funny. It was so well done. There is like one line in this that just had me like giggling. Whilst they're at the hotel, they're playing like Truth or Dare or something. They're talking about like hookups and like what kind of like age group you go for hookups. And she says like, I like to hook up with people older, and he likes people that are younger. And she's like, what's the go there? She sort of says something like, you know, sometimes it's not about like the size of the boat. It's like the motion of the ocean or something. And he goes, you've been in the wrong boats. And I was just laughing so hard. I don't know why. It was just so funny. Anyways, that being said, you guys, I really loved the first half of this book. It was really funny, super engaging. I was flying through it. And then unfortunately, I think the back end just wrapped up really quickly. I don't know. There was not really a lot of like resolution going on. I think it was sort of rushed towards the end, which is really unfortunate. I did end up giving this book a 3.75 star and a 2.5 chili spices. Like I said, I think it's cute for the vibes. This is actually like a little bit more Christmassy than I thought it was going to be, like wintry Christmassy, which is nice. So I do still recommend. I just think the back end was a little bit like it fell off in the back end. Okay, and the last book that I think I read in that little reading vlog was one that I've been wanting to get to for a while. It was a nice shorty. I think it's about 290 pages. Yeah, it is 290 pages. And I've been itching to go back to a historical romance for a while because you guys know that I love it so much. So I decided to pick up A Bride by Morning, and this is by Katrina Kendrick. Every time I've like spoken about this, you guys, the concept that I sort of give, this is like a Colin and Penn Regency romance, but add in assassins. That's how this book is described and how I feel. So it says he's a heartbreaker and she is a wallflower. So this book follows Gabriel and Lydia. They are childhood friends. Basically how it opens is like Gabriel's about to enlist and go away to like work in the service, and he comes to see her before he leaves, and he says like it sucks that I have to go, but he says wait for me, and when I come back I'm gonna marry you, because they've sort of had something going on. So Lydia waits for 10 years. 10 years she waits, and she hears nothing from him. So she sort of gives up hope, and she's officially on the shelf. She's officially a spinster. However, Gabriel decides to make his return to society, and he is like very much that rake, that heartbreaker, right? And she is so mad at him because, you know, he promised her that, you know, wait for me, I'll marry you. And then he just ditched her. Ghosted her. Absolutely Regency ghosted her. Anyway, they sort of reconnect, and Gabriel is now a spy, which is really interesting. Sorry, or assassin. Both, right? That's all I'm going to say, because the book sort of goes from there, and it's so good. This one is another one that was really interesting to me because I was flying through it, and I was going to give this book a solid 4 star. I was going to give it like a 4.25 star maybe, because I was like, this is so delicious. Nice palate cleanser. And then this thing did like the worst thing it could have possibly done, and literally wrapped up the entire book in 10 pages. I'm talking about trying to wrap up an entire plot and conflict resolution in 10 pages. I said, what's going on? Like, is my copy like missing some pages? What is happening? I was so upset because I was like, this was doing so well. I will say, to this book's credit, this is probably the spiciest Regency romance that I have ever read. Usually Regency is like a 2 star, maybe 1.5 chilies. It's more about the romance, but this was spicy. So, I mean, I may potentially read the other books in this series because it was nice, but yeah, that's that one. Guys, there was a lot of like highly anticipated releases in November. Like, I kind of forgot that I read them. Alrighty guys, the next book that I read was again another very highly anticipated release, and this was Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. This is book 3 in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and again, one that I was itching for, gnawing at the bars of my enclosure for. Like, I'm not even playing around. I needed Gus and Teddy's story. Like, I needed air to breathe. I was on the edge of my seat waiting for this, okay? So for those who haven't heard of the Rebel Blue Ranch series before, there is 2 more before this. There is Done and Dusted and Swift and Saddled. This is book number 3, again, similar to your Chestnut Springs. This is like, again, interconnected. So we have known about these characters and known and loved these characters since book number 1. And I have been itching for Gus and Teddy because this is sort of a like rivalry, enemies to lovers sort of relationship. Boss employee, dad and the nanny type of scenario, but it's also just about 2 characters that I absolutely adored, and I can't wait to talk about this book because it had very interesting events and outcomes for me. So, as I said, this book follows Gus and Teddy. So, Gus is the oldest brother in the Anderson family. He has a beautiful little girl called Riley, and he is sort of like the head guy in charge on this ranch, right? He likes to do everything for himself. He never asks for help. The woman that he had this child with, they are still really good friends. Her name is Cam. However, she, they're not together anymore, and she has just gone into the city to start a new job because she is a lawyer. And because she's going there to start this job, she can't take Riley with her. So Gus is basically tasked to look after Riley for the time being, all by himself. So how this story sort of starts is his family give him an intervention and they say, listen, you are falling behind and you can't do this all on your own. You need some help. So why don't you ask Teddy, who is his little sister's best friend and the person he literally cannot stand. Teddy Anderson, I have never related and resonated with a character more in my life. She is like your Willa from Heartless, right? She is just larger than life, life of the party. The lion is what they always refer to her as. And I just feel so deeply, like I've never felt so deeply connected and attached to a female main character before. I just absolutely adore her. She's basically always been working at this little like clothing store in this small town. And she's now getting to this point in her life where she feels like all of her friends around her are moving forward and she's stuck in the same spot. She's like, everyone's getting married and moving on and I'm just still in the same spot. What ends up happening is the store that Teddy is working at ends up being sold. So the lady she works for says, I'm so sorry, but you won't have a job here anymore. I'm selling the store. Here's your little payout. So she is, of course, looking for a job. With Gus's family intervening and Teddy's best friend Emmy intervening, they basically say, hey, what would you think about going to work for Gus and looking after or helping him look after Riley over the summer? And then, of course, we do get this lovely forced proximity, boss and the nanny, single dad, romance, enemies to lovers thing too. So here are my thoughts on Lost and Lassoed. This might be the longest part of this video. When I read this book, I read it in under 24 hours and I gave it 5 stars because I bawled my eyes out. Like I was a mess. I could not stop crying. So immediately I finished it and I said, yes, this is a 5-star book. Something in me was like, not wanting to write my review straight away, which is kind of interesting. But anyways, I took a few days and a couple of days just turned into days and days and days. And I kept thinking about this book and I kept thinking about this book. And as I was thinking and pondering on it even more, I realized that this book is actually not a 5-star read. Sometimes I get into the trap where if I absolutely bawl my eyes out at a book, I'm like, yes, this was 5 stars. This was immaculate. But like I said, upon reflection, I think this book is about a 4.5 star and I will tell you why. So I, as I said, absolutely love Gus and Teddy as individual characters. I think their respective individual plots throughout this book were so much more interesting to me and intriguing than their plot as a couple, which is so sad because like I was saying, I was so excited for this book that I think I maybe got my hopes up or too invested that I thought it was going to be something more than it was. And I think their story as a couple was not what I needed it to be, a 5-star romance. However, Teddy's plotline, the individual thing that she goes through in this book, had me in tears. And if you read this book, please read the author's note and the bonus content because it just makes the story so much more impactful. And I think that storyline that Teddy goes through individually is a 5-star. However, the book as a whole is a solid 4.5 star. I do still think that Swift and Saddled is actually my favorite book in this series. However, these are my favorite characters. Does that make sense? Anyways, you guys, like I said, 4.5 stars for Lost and Lassoed and a 2.5 Chili Spice. I love this series and I cannot wait for Wild and Wrangled. I actually think that is going to be my favorite book because it is childhood friends to lovers, second chance. I'm just so excited for that. I'm so excited to talk about this next book, you guys. Like, it's not funny. I think this was maybe last week or so. I had a package rock up at my door and I said, what is going on there? Like, what is this? And when I opened it, I screamed my head off. You guys will know this book. I'll put a photo of the actual cover on the screen. However, it is being traditionally published in Australia on the 3rd of December, okay? And Hachette very, very kindly and graciously have gifted me a proof copy of Quicksilver, and this is by Callie Hart. As I said, you guys will know what this cover looks like. It's next to me here. This is just a gorgeous proof copy that they have sent me. They've even put my name on it, which is insane. And on the back, it says, your next romantasy obsession is here. This was another one that I put on my 10 before the end that I fully intended to buy when it came out on the 3rd. I know that you can read this on Kindle or you can get it off Amazon, but I thought I might just wait for the trad pub. However, when it rocked up at my door, I said, I need to read this now. I'm sorry, but I need to read this now. How do I even begin? So Quicksilver is a romantasy and it is huge. It's huge, okay? So let me break it down. Let me try to explain this book in the best way possible. This book follows Ceres Fane, okay? She is basically like in this world here where there's all these like little factions. Like think about like your districts and whatever. Maybe like Divergent. Think of all your little sections. And it's basically ruled by this terrible, evil, like queen lady who nobody likes and she's terrible. And basically Ceres has these abilities and powers that no one really knows about and she even doesn't really know about. She uses those to basically go around and like steal food and water and things for her brother because they are part of quite a poor little section. The supplies are quite limited. Anyways, one day she actually gets caught by the guard and she gets taken into the castle, kept like as a prisoner. She gets thrown into this jail cell and one thing sort of leads to another and Ceres actually accidentally opens up a portal to another like dimension, another world. From that portal walks out Death himself. Death himself is what she describes him as. He comes out of this pool of Quicksilver and he basically pulls her through the portal and into this world of Fae. And Ceres, in her world, they sort of believe that, you know, the Fae have been, you know, non-existent for many years now, but they are still alive. And basically, because Death, his name is Kingfisher, saved her life, they sort of accidentally bind themselves to each other and she owes him something and the book sort of goes from there. That is as vague as I can describe this book because I don't want to spoil anything. Now, let me break this down for you guys. This is a long book. This is 609 pages. It is a long slog. So for the first 200 pages, I just want to prepare you guys that it's going to be world building heavy. Not much is going to really happen. It's just going to be a beginning, getting your head wrapped around things, okay? This is, you know, like I said, a little bit slow to begin with, but once I hit the 200 page mark, I could not put this book down. Not only did I read this in a 24-hour reading challenge, but I could not stop thinking about these characters, thinking about this world. I was like genuinely obsessed. You guys know I didn't read much romantasy last year, but this year it's sort of just like taken over my life. The best way I can describe this without literally spoiling it, if you want the earth-shattering, all-consuming romance that you got from A Court of Mist and Fury with a cliffhanger like the end of Fourth Wing, you will eat this up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This world, I'm obsessed with every single element. I still haven't processed it and I read it like over a week ago now. And there is a side character in this called Carrion. And if you guys have read this, I just need you to know that I need him. I need him to like live in my pocket. Like I need him to be my best friend. Okay, cool. This book destroyed me and I'm sorry. I'm not even sorry about it. I gave it a 5-star. I gave it a 5-star because at first I was like, this is not a 5-star because, you know, it took a while to get into it. However, sometimes a 5-star book is not a perfect book. It might not be the most like best written book. It might not be like perfect from beginning to end, but I don't care that it took 200 pages for me to enjoy this. The overall feeling and like the tears and like, I don't know, go watch my 24-hour reading vlog if you want to see my reactions to reading this book because it was just delicious. I gave it 5 stars and 2.5 chili spices. I need the next one now, Callie. I know, I mean, if she has announced it, please let me know, but I haven't seen anything. However, when I went on Goodreads, it says Fae and Alchemy #1, which means there better be more. Please and thank you. I'm being so for real. Alrighty, the next book and the last physical book that I read this month was Juniper Hill. This is by Devaney Perry. This is book 2 in the Eden series. So this one I heard a lot about. So Indigo Ridge I read earlier this year and I loved that. This was actually like a romantic mystery, like suspense. There was a mystery element which I really loved. So this is again another small town interconnected romance series. And this one I'd heard a lot of great things about because this is of course another single parent. And we also have another chef, funnily enough. I read a few chefs this month. So we have a grumpy chef and we have a single mum to a beautiful little boy called Drake, who basically has just accepted a new position working at this ranch or this like little inn, working as a housekeeper because basically her family has like disowned her for having this baby. She ends up going out to this place to work and because she sort of started the job so quickly, she wasn't able to find any accommodation in town. So her boss, Eloise, says, hey, look, like my brother has like a spare spot at his place. You can stay with him. And Knox, just this grumpy chef, has always been like lone wolf, does not like to be around people, likes his sanctuary and his silence. He's like, as if you've invited this woman with a baby to live with me. But of course, the grumpy grumps are always the one that fall and melt hardest. And it was just very sweet. This was, again, nice to begin with. The issue that I sort of had with Juniper Hill was that it fell into this category and trap that I'd read a lot of this year. And especially these books that are around the 300 page mark. arc. The plot moves really fast, so I really struggle to like actually form an emotional connection to the characters when it just moves so fast. Like, you know how it'll be like they come in, they start the job, they move, and then the next chapter it's like a week later or like 3 weeks later. It's like, whoa, like when are we developing this relationship? Not only like when are the characters developing this relationship, when do we get to see it, and when do I get to form an attachment to the characters? Why did I just sound like the Duke? We could form an attachment. Anyways, so I ended up giving Juniper Hill a 3.5 star and a 1.5 chili spices. The one thing that I really loved about this book that I will say is the relationship between Knox and Memphis's little boy, Drake. I think it's like one of the things, like my little micro, I don't know if it's a micro trope or what it is. I absolutely love when it's not a single dad and it's a single mom, but the new MMC ends up like treating her baby exactly like his own son or something. I just think it is so incredibly sweet. He kept calling him his little man. I don't know, super cute. So still a solid rating. I don't think that I'm going to be continuing on with this series. It's not the strongest that I've read by Devney Perry. I do really like her writing, but yeah, maybe I'm going to pause on this series for now. Next up, I decided to reach for my Kindle and read my first little holiday romance for this year. And I decided to pick up the Mistletoe Bet. This is by Maren Moore. This is a tiny little Christmas novella and it is literally like 130 pages, like not even. It's so short. Just wanted something as like a little bit of a palate cleanser and it was really sweet. So this book follows Quinn and Parker. So this is another like childhood sort of brother's best friend one as well. He is a doctor and she has come home for the holidays. She's like a little bit of a Grinchy, doesn't like Christmas, has never liked Christmas, and he's like the sunshine, so the reverse grumpy sunshine. They basically like reconnect at a little family gathering before Christmas and they have a smooch under the mistletoe, and basically Parker says, "You're here for a week, let me convince you in 7 days to love Christmas." They make a bet that, you know, he can convince her to love Christmas within 7 days. So very straightforward. I ended up giving this book a 2.5 star and a 2 chili spice. I usually don't give novellas anything higher than like a 3 or a 3.5 star. So this was super solid, really funny, really cheesy. I will sort of laugh because there was a mention of jeggings in this, and then I had to check when it was published and it was only 2021. And I said, girl, who is wearing jeggings in 2021? Please sound off in the comments if you are still wearing jeggings. I just think jeggings are honestly a cardinal sin. I'm sorry. Each to their own, but no one is still wearing jeggings in this day and age. I'm telling you now. All right, you guys, are you ready for what I'm about to talk about next? I don't think you are. I continued on with the Kindle and I picked up a book that I have been itching to read for a while. This only came out this year. And can I just say, this book was published on my birthday this year, okay? And when I tell you about it, you're going to see why. I just think that's so slay, okay? I am screaming my head off about this book. This is a magical moment. I read Passenger Princess by Morgan Elizabeth. Okay, I actually have no words for this, and I'm just gonna start this review off by saying, and you can tell by the way I'm behaving, I loved this book so much. You actually do not understand, okay? Let me tell you the premise. This book follows Ava, okay? She randomly on a whim one night decides that she is going to put in an application to be a part of the Miss Americana beauty pageant, right? Because, you know, she's chatting with her friends and they're, you know, both of them have small businesses. They go, you know, oh, I'd really love for like an influencer to like push my business out and get my name out there. So she goes, you know what? I'm going to help the girls out. I'm going to apply for this pageant, hopefully get through. And if I'm on there, I can endorse their businesses. So basically, Ava doesn't expect to get any further than the first couple of rounds. Anyway, Ava ends up winning the Miss Americana beauty pageant on a win, because that is just who she is. She is funny, charismatic, you know, the people's princess. She ends up winning this beauty pageant. Anyway, a part of the contract of winning this Miss Americana beauty pageant is that she has to go on a little bit of a victory tour. Okay, think Hunger Games. She's going around all 50 states for 3 months. And because, you know, she's so high profile now and an influencer, she needs a bodyguard. She needs a bodyguard. Okay, she needs a bodyguard. Enter Jamie. Jamie. Grumpy bodyguard who's used to, you know, being a bodyguard for these like bands and things like that. He gets a new assignment from his boss and he said, this is so important. This could be huge for us. You cannot mess this up. So of course he gets assigned to Ava, who he's actually met previously. And you'll see when you read the book. So the two of them set off on literally the little road trip of a lifetime together, taking around all the 50 states, and the book sort of goes from there. When I tell you guys, favorite book I've read this month for starters. This book is the perfect rom-com. Say it with me now. The perfect rom-com. This book was flawless from beginning to end. It is genuinely hilarious. The romance, the spice, Every single element is a perfect romance, okay? Rom-com romance. There is no like emotional gut punch at the end. It is just fun for literally 326 pages. I gave this book 5 stars and 3 chili spices. It has quickly climbed the ladder of my favorite books from this year. You guys don't understand how much I loved this book. And I'm telling you, because I've literally yelled about it for about 3 minutes now. Please read this book. Do yourself a favor. You will not regret it. I need the physical copy now. I like seriously need it for my health. Like, it's not funny. I'm looking at my journal spread, and you guys will see my journal spread, and I'm like, I just want to sit and read this and nothing else for the rest of my life. Just this book. Just this book. Alrighty, and the very last book that I read in November, I haven't even journaled yet, but I'll show you the page when I journal it because I finished it this morning. It was the next book in this series. I believe it's Evergreen Harbor, okay? So the next one after Passenger Princess, and it was called If This Was a Movie. So this is following another friend, like I was telling you. You know how I said Ava had 2 friends who've got their small little businesses? This follows Jules. She has just opened up a dance studio, and through Ava's help, it has become a blooming success. She cannot keep up. And this is actually set around Christmas time. So this is actually a Christmas book. Very, very fun. Jules, basically, like how the book opens is she is getting ready to do a recital with all the kids there. And basically she lives like above the like dance studio, and her apartment floods, and she's like in a heap in a whirl. And across the street is Nate, and he is about to get a Santa photo for his, little girl. His little girl, Sophie, wants a Santa photo. And, he's listening in when he, when she says what she wants for Christmas. And she says, I want you, Santa, to make my favorite little ballerina doll into a real person so that, she can fall in love with my dad and get married so that I can have a mum, which is really, really sad. And he goes, so if that just doesn't happen, Santa brings toys, not people. Anyways, they're like walking out of the mall, and then Sophie spots Jules standing outside the dance studio, and she beelines it over there. And she goes, it came true. My Christmas wish came true. Dad, look, it's my doll. It's my doll. And then Jules looks up and she goes, Nate? And he goes, Jules? They know each other because last Christmas they had a fling. And the story goes from there. This is another single dad, sort of nanny sort of thing. And yeah, let me tell you about it. So this book started out super strong, and I liked where it was going. It was really funny, cute, Christmassy vibes. There's a little bit with like mistletoe, which if you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then I didn't like the back end. So the problem that I had with the back end, where's my phone? Actually, I will tell you what the problem was. Towards the end, I've always had a little bit of a problem with like insta-lovey sort of things. But the second thing that I had a problem with this book is miscommunication. The guy being like super icky, like insecure. I really don't like insecure MMCs. And then the biggest one is just a personal thing. The male main character reminded me so much of this guy that I dated this year. And it was just like, I couldn't like separate it. And I know you're supposed to do that as a reader, but like, again, like the insecurity and like the clinging, I could not do it. So I didn't really love how this book wrapped up. So it was okay. I ended up giving it a 3-star and a 2 chili. The spicy scenes were great. I definitely think Passenger Princess was just like the highlight of this month. It was really interesting to see like how I loved that book so much to the next one not being a hit. But that just goes to show that, when you do read an author, sometimes the first book you read by them, if you don't like it, it does not define them as an author. You just have to keep reading and seeing if you like what they love, what they write. So I'm so keen to go on a Morgan Elizabeth deep dive. I just think she's so great at what she does. It's just that, if this was a movie, did not work for me per se. Alrighty, you guys, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for sticking through all the way to the end. If you did, I really, really appreciate it. How did you guys go in November? Let me know if you've read any of the books, A, that I've read this month, and B, what your favorite book was that you read this month, because I'm always looking for new recs and I would love to know. As always, you guys, if you aren't already, you are more than welcome to follow me on TikTok and on Instagram. I'll leave my handles on the screen and in the description. And if you'd like to, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, but make sure you are hitting that notification bell to make sure you do get notified each time a brand new video goes up, because guys, I can't believe it. We're about to start December, and I've mentioned it a few times in my videos, but I will be doing Bookmas this year. I will be doing the 12 days of Bookmas or Vlogmas, however you like to say it. So I've been working really hard over the last month to get 12 videos up for you guys. So there'll be one from the 1st of December all the way through every single day until the 12th of December. And I cannot wait for you guys to see that. So as I said, make sure you're subscribed, got your notifications on for when they come out, because they're just going to come out bang, 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 one after the other. Thank you guys so much for stopping by again. I really, really appreciate it wherever you are in the world. I hope you have a lovely day or a lovely night, and I will see you all in a few days. Bye.